Let's roll out the carpet for the first panelist and for the moderator. Please invite to the stage Carla Bellini, the Certified Chartered Accountant at Studio. Welcome. We have stairs over here, stairs to the other side. I invite you to take a seat and I'll give you a microphone, okay? Piana Aluzzi, come on up to the stage. You're going to pronounce your company name the proper way. Give her a round of applause. Hasn't arrived yet. All right, we'll continue. Michael Van Dyke, CEO and co-founder of All Your BI. Thank you. To the stage. We have Asanor Gavin, the founder and managing partner of Daphne Consulting. Come on up. Perfect. And we have Harold Bastista. He's the CEO of Paul Hounds Global BPO Corporation. We get microphones for everybody. Now, you will see me come when you have 5 minutes left to keep the day going, all right? Have a great panel discussion.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So let me start this one by just introducing myself, and then we'll go from me to you guys, all right? So, by the way, my name again is Harold Bautista, and I'll be moderating our panel for today, all right? So let me just first introduce myself. So my name is Harold Bautista. I'm the CEO and founder of Call Hounds Global BPO Corporation. So we're based in Manila, Philippines, and we're now expanding in EMEA. So our business is business process outsourcing. We're partnering with clients worldwide to basically help them achieve their business requirements. So if there are any business processes that you guys have back home that you would like to outsource and save you time, money, so that you can focus on the most important aspect of your business, we're here to help you. So we actually have a booth outside just in front of the door. So just go through that exit and you'll see us together with with the rest of the exhibitors. All right, we're more than welcome to. We're going to welcome you with open arms and answer all your questions. Okay, so once again, good morning, and I'm gonna give the microphone to my colleague here at Singer.
Thank you, Harold. This is Ayşe Nurgüven. I'm from Turkey, but I also live in Dubai time to time for the last 12 years. I'm the founder and CEO of Daphne Consulting, which is a boutique consulting firm focused on data, growth, marketing, budgeting, branding, and talent in general. Basically, we kind of like serve from Middle East, the UK, US, and Turkey. And what we do is we all start with data. Always, we gather the insights from it, and then we drive growth strategies depending on the data for the companies we work with. And before that, I was a VP of marketing for Rocket Internet, which is an incubator and investor. And in Middle East and Turkey, I was responsible for 6 domains introduction to the market, which is now some of you might be familiar, is namshi.com. And then even before that, I was in travel business in Istanbul and New York for 6 years, responsible from US office and B2B and B2C marketing and sales. I'm so happy to be here because data is my favorite topic, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ayşe. All right, now we'll proceed to Michael. Michael here, he has a lot of insights in today's topic, so I think it would be nice to hear it from him.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Van Dyke. I'm CEO and co-founder of All Your BI. And I've had the privilege to start 5 years ago with 3 employees. We grew the business in the last 5 years to now 50 plus. And over those last 5 years, we had the opportunity to really work with a lot of leading international companies to help them thrive and really leverage the potential of data. And I'm really looking forward to share our experience, some thoughts that we have on those journeys with all of you.
Thank you so much, Michael. And now we have here Carla.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. Carla Bellini, and as pointed out before, I'm a certified chartered accountant. My relationship with data starts from the tax and customs issues for the companies, but recently, depending on my the focus of my activity on the blue economy area, then shipping companies, yachting companies, and all the businesses working around the shipping and yachting markets. I started to focus also on sustainability, and beside my work also at the university as adjunct professor in maritime customs and tax law and practice, I've become a specialist in sustainability reports and auditor for sustainability reports, which in my opinion represented a new challenge for the use of data, for resilience of businesses, and for the future of our planet. So I'm very happy to share with these valuable speakers and with you my experience, even if started from another perspective than management of the business. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Carla, for that. All right, let's all give them a round of applause. All right, in today's session, we're going to be discussing boosting your team's data literacy and how thinking like a business can deliver valuable insights. So we're going to be discussing about data, right? And we all have different experiences in terms of our relationship with data. How we understand it, how we interpret it, right? So now we're going to be asking our panelists here, what do you guys think, or how do you define data literacy? All right, so maybe we'll start first with Isinor here, right? So with your background, I think you can share with us some valuable insight. What do you think is data literacy? What is the definition of it?
Okay, thank you, Harold. So data literacy, as you might realize, is more a recent term, right? It was not with us. All the data was with us years ago. Data literacy term I would say recently came out, like maybe 10 years. And when you think of it, it's, from my point of view, turning data to information and information to knowledge. This is, for me, when I think of data literacy, I just don't think of raw numbers. It's after you analyze it, it starts. Because first you have to have enough data, quality data, and then you have to analyze it. But this is data analysis, right? It's not literacy. Literacy is being able to read it, make connections out of it, drive strategy out of it, making decisions out of it to grow the business. So I take data literacy from a very practical point of view, where you kind of like, if your company is data literate, I'm sure your company is very successful. Even though there are many obstacles in micro and macro level, still to understand if your company is data literate, you can think of that way. And today, after especially Industry 4.0, data literacy has become even more important because the flow of information and data kind of like increased, changed the pace basically. So it's not faster. That's why we're talking about that. And it definitely helps you to reach your goals. This is how practical I look at the data literacy.
Thank you so much for that. So basically for you, data literacy means being able to understand it, use it, and make decisions using data. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Isinor. And now we'll proceed to Michael here. Michael, can you share your insights about what data literacy means?
Yeah, so I agree with what you said before. I think if you really narrow it down to what is it at its core, is I think it's the skill of actually leveraging data. So I think there's two elements to it, right? On one hand, you have the data-driven culture, which is a sort of a separate topic that goes hand in hand. And then you have the data literacy. So I believe that data culture is really the willingness of an organization to how do we effectively use the data in our day-to-day operations, making the right decisions. And then data literacy is really the skill of how to actually leverage it. how do you ensure that you have the right capabilities, the right knowledge, to make sense of the data, to understand it, to understand where it's coming from, what to do with it, what not to do with it, and really make those effective decisions.
All right, thank you. So for you, data literacy means not just being able to understand it and interpret it. For you, it's also how to leverage it, right? Well, thank you so much for that. Now let's proceed to the lady,
Yeah,
Carla.
thank you. I absolutely agree on on these previous thoughts, and I think that you talk about skills, culture, and knowledge. This culture, this ability to derive powerful information from the data is, I think, the common line linking together our thoughts and the use of the data. I think that this culture has to be seen in the identification, for example, for the appropriate KPIs to be read, to be selected, to be calculated, to be collected, and to be read later on to derive this powerful and meaningful information for future decisions, because this is the real value of the data to make the decision makers more able to take the appropriate decisions for the best result in a long-term view. In my opinion, a suggestion I can give.
Right. So for Carla, using the data that you've collected and using it as a benchmark can be an effective tool for the companies out there, and not just the educational institutions that you're working with, right? So let's all face it. Not all companies are leveraging the data that they have or know how to use the data that they've collected, right? So right now, our goal here is to help you guys understand it and to help you become more data literate, right? So I have a few follow-up questions regarding data literacy, if you guys don't mind. Right. So let's start first with Michael. When you first started your business, right, were you already data literate? Or what were some of the obstacles that you've encountered until you become data literate?
Well, within our own company, I argue we were already, well, at least the culture was there to leverage it. And arguably we had the skills, because that's what we do, right? We help our customers to actually leverage the data. And it would be interesting if we ourselves don't actually leverage the data, while at the same time we try to, teach our customers how to use it. So yes, I think within All Your BI, we were from the beginning data literate, because we also on the hiring process look at what is the analytical capabilities and skills of the team. Because I think if you look at how to build the data literacy for your company, it starts in the onboarding. So if you look at any type of role function within the organization, figuring out what is the element of analytical capabilities that you need in order to progress in that particular role is really going to help you move forward. And then, if you look at the organization we've built, we build the platforms as well. So yes, we have the team they have to be data literate. They have to understand what it means to have data. How do you define the right definitions? How do you translate it to business objects, and business objectives and business processes, and where the link is with that. So I would definitely say, yes, we were data literate from the get-go, but there's always room for improvement, right? As technology grows, and we have a lot of AI technology right now. Everybody, yes, in the room has heard and probably leveraged ChatGPT at some point. So then the next step is, how do we increase the data literacy that we also leverage that new technology that's constantly evolving?
Thank you for that, Michael. And for I to know here, so from the get-go, let's say you've been in this for quite some time, right? You've lived in Dubai for 16 years, and based in your experience, majority of how does the companies in Dubai see data literacy?
Okay, So the companies in Dubai and in Middle East is a little bit look alike. But to be perfectly honest, so I've seen US cases, I've seen UK cases, Turkey, Middle East, like Europe even. But I think this is about, so I don't want anybody to feel bad, but let's face it, we all have room to grow. So I cannot separate the companies in Dubai to be better or worse. Because I've seen many cases, as you said, from different business cycles, whether it's a startup, whether it's a big corporation, and the common issues they face is the same. So nobody needs to feel bad about it. We just need to accept the problem and then work around it. So that's how I look at it. And that's normal, by the way. So this is not something we think of or feel ourselves and teams behind other teams, because this is the way it is. And if we just like understand where do we need to improve our organization and team, I think we'll get to be better. But for me, it starts with accepting whether you have big data teams or you have, like, the first time I was in a conference in New York, I was like 25. And my company just sent me to a conference about data analytics. And I was working in travel industry, so there was the Expedia guys, which is a very big company, and their data team was 40 people. And I was just like one person trying to understand, because 40 people versus me, but I know how successful is Expedia. But then I see like the size doesn't matter, because 10 years ago, Expedia was much more powerful. But now Booking.com already, like, they kind of like switch places, and then in travel industry change. So you also have to adapt to it, basically. Your question was great, but I think I don't want to divide it as region, because from my point of view, it's any country, any culture, any size of business that has some lacks that we can all face and try to resolve around it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Eisinger. Now we're going to proceed to our next set of question. All right. So the next question would be basically discussing the commonalities that we observe with the different organizations, not just with the GCC, but pretty much everywhere else that we've been to, right? So let me proceed to Carla first. So what are some of the commonalities that you observe in different companies when it comes to data literacy?
I was thinking about, thank you for this question, and I was thinking, we met yesterday, and we started to discuss. After our discussion yesterday, I had new ideas, and now I'm listening to you, and I have more ideas about this. Is really challenging, and I like the sentence used in introducing us, and it was grasping the power of data literacy. So I loved it. I wrote it down because it was fascinating and exciting for me, because this is really a mindset. And as Eisenhower pointed out, there can be fear for the data, fear for the result, fear for the picture that data can give to businesses, to organizations, because of the fear of judgment. And this is not an issue related to local behaviors, local approaches. This is something that is cross-cutting at worldwide level. It's something linked to our internal emotions, and this cross-cuts all the countries in the same way. I think that this grasping the power of the data should be used for empowering minds. And if we think about the organization as a team, and the difference between a team, if compared with just a group of people with the same target, is that in the team, each one should have a task to achieve that goal, while a group is just working for the idea. Data can give the performance of single issues belonging to the same goals of the company. in a long-term decisions, and maybe underperformance are something that can show weaknesses of the organizations and things we have to improve. In a team, we cannot think that the team is the best ever and everything is done at the highest level. This is something we have to cope with and start to understand that cannot be just good news. But if each business unit, if each function in an organization improved in one thing or a couple of things, not more, and we have to select the weaknesses, to select the best point to focus on, this could be a high improvement for the organization. It's something which is used in sports. Maybe each function in the team improves in something which is his or her point of weakness. And this is something that can give a big improvement. This mindset and the need to improve, first the mindset, moving out the judgment on the performances, can be a strong communality in data, in my opinion.
I think that's correct, right? Right. You need to change your mindsets first in how we approach data. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in the past, right? Doing the same thing, and expecting the same, different results, right? So that's a very good approach, Carl. Thank you for sharing that with us. And how about you, Michael? What do you think of this question?
Yeah, so there's a lot of commonalities that you see across different organizations struggling to really leverage the potential of data. And I think one of them is the awareness of how important data literacy actually is. I think we look at it mostly from a technological perspective, like, we need to build the platform, the technological solution to actually get the data. And then forget about, we also need to train the individuals to actually leverage that platform, to understand what data means, to understand what the KPIs, definitions are, the governance around it. And because we don't have always the awareness of that is an important element, we tend to include it in the whole implementation process. So I think that's one. Another one is obviously data quality. Over the last couple of years, we've had implementations of ERP systems, CRM systems, and all sorts of other applications that help us in the day-to-day operations. Without, at that point of implementation, maybe thinking about how can we leverage all the data that we now enter in the system in a later term to actually realize what happened over the past and learn from that. So an interesting thing is that we had some experience with this, an organization. They built and sold, how do you say that in English? The protective gear for people that work outside. And their sales team was focusing really on, increasing sales, right? But they only entered the things in the sales CRM system that were relevant for them. But when we started to do the whole analytics and reporting, we noticed that we missed a lot of information to really figure out who are their core customers, because that was never entered in the system. If that's never entered in the system, then you can never get it out, right? So it starts with understanding what is the importance of longer term leveraging that data. And then taking that into account and building that data quality over time. So those are two common threats that we see.
Well, thank you so much. It's very insightful, right? Now, Eisner, what do you think about this question? And what do you think about the answers that Michael and Carl are sharing?
I totally agree with them, I have to say. Because as Carla said, when we met yesterday, the four of us, we were nodding all the time, like, yeah, I have the same, I have the same. Like, it was crazy. We were nodding all the time because this is, as we said, this is for everyone. From my point of view, when I first start working with a client, I ask, what kind of reports do you look on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and, what does your budget look like? And then some Excel reports come, and it's too much. I think one of the common mistakes, commonalities, is because there is too much data available now, there is too much reports. But the question is, who is going to read and make some insights from those reports? That is a missing part, right? Because not everybody in the organization is literate and data literate enough to understand what data reveals to you. And most of the time, data analysis, it's okay to have it under one department, BI and analytics, for instance, but for data literacy, you have to have all the organization to be a part of it. You cannot just have one guy, because the other commonality is when I ask about the data about the specific department, everybody points to one person. You know, oh, there is Michael. Michael would do it for you. Michael is doing everything basically. Like, what would that company do without Michael? So, who is that Michael in your organization, right? Because, like, pointing just one person or one specialist within the organization is not going to help us. That one. And the second commonality, or the third one, is very ambitious goals and setting up high targets with no data-backed versions of it. This is also a very common thing, because when we ask about, let's say, what's your next year's or next 3 years plan for growth, people say double up. Do you know what it means to double up the business in some cases, or sometimes triple up? You know, like, yeah, I love your enthusiasm, and I am one too, but that's not going to be the case. So that shows we do not look at the data as it should, and also, like we were also talking yesterday, one of the points that we all agree was the data definitions, because nobody in the organizations know. Or just that Michael guy knows, but he has to check. He has to ask somebody to make sure that is that. Nobody in the organization knows enough. What does really this mean? Like, what is this KPI? What is sales to you? Is it net sales? Is it gross sales? Is it after discounts? Is it included VAT? You know, these all parts is very big commonalities from my point of view. Yeah.
Wow, that's very insightful. Thank you so much, Aisir. Now, in my opinion about this matter, just like what we've discussed yesterday, one thing that we also observe is that in every organization, sometimes the departments within those organizations can be very protective on how they interpret data. So it can be, for example, if I'm in sales and I have these data, of course I want to make sure that my department would look like we're performing, right? So the way we interpret data can make it look like we're performing, right? Whereas if somebody who really understands what those data means can tell you, wait, you might not be performing as much as you want to believe, right? Because they don't really know how to interpret it properly, right? So that's also one of the commonalities that we observe with the different corporations that we're assisting, right? So there you go. Thank you so much for that. Let's now proceed to the next part of the question. And basically, these are some of the key suggestions or plans that you can share with our audiences, right? On how they can leverage data literacy, how to use data to improve their team's performance, right? So let me start first with Carla here.
Okay, thank you. I think that the first point is the selection of the appropriate KPIs. And to select the appropriate KPIs, we must know the context, the market, and the analysis of the environment where the business works. And another main point after the selection of the KPIs is also that the organization of the plan to collect the data and, first of all, to select the KPIs has a strong commitment to arrive to a result. Because if the work is done, as we all pointed out, that there can be difficulties in the mindset of the people working on collection of the data and not so willing to arrive to the end of the work. So if the process has a strong push and a strong idea to be set up and to be implemented to arrive to appropriate data, it's better to move enough fast to avoid the idea that the collection of the data doesn't work. Because in the organization, the mindset could be also translated in terms of it takes a lot of time. We lose time in selecting KPIs, in collecting the data, in reading the data. There are no useful information we can derive from the data. So this is lived as something which can make the people wasting time. This is not true, but the process can make the mindset and the lack of a good plan to work on the data can make the people feel that it is a waste of time. And this is something we have to avoid, because we completely lose the process and we completely lose the people. Okay? We have to overcome the negative mindset, and to do it, the process for selection of the KPIs and to collect the data must have a good flow chart, a good plan, also in terms of time. People must feel that the plan is met, is carried out with a good flow, with a good environment, with a positive approach of the organization. So it can work. Without this strong commitment from the under a bottom-up and a top-down approach, this can work. Without this commitment, if you start, okay, we do it, no, leave it. Because the risk to waste time is really high.
So being committed to being data literate is very important, just like what Carla mentioned, right? So it needs to start not just from top below, but also from below to up, right? It needs to be the whole organization. And I think that's the only way you can boost your team's performance.
Yes. And as we pointed out in all the steps, it's a matter of culture. The bottom-up works if we make the people working in the organization trained to understand the value, so they can cooperate, so the culture gives the good suggestions for collecting the data from also a bottom-up perspective.
Right. So let me just share with you an experience that we've encountered. So we are a BPO company. We are a business process outsourcing. So basically, we help a lot of businesses in different verticals. They're from real estate, e-commerce, healthcare, bank and finance, right? So what we observe amongst these different verticals, different companies, is that the more successful they are, the more they are utilizing data. And basically, from the trainers, from the mid managers, from the supervisors, they all know how to interpret data. And that's very important. I think not just from on the department level, but basically an organizational wide level. And that's how people don't understand how powerful data until they see the results, right? And I think that's one thing that you're trying to point out, right? It needs to be organizational wide and not just from top to down, bottom to up. It needs to be the whole organization, right? The commitment to understanding data, being able to interpret data, it's very important nowadays, especially with the advent of AI. As you guys know, AI, it's just big data, right? What's behind AI is just big data. So that's what's very important. Thank you, Carla, for sharing that insight to us, right? And now, Michael, what are the things that you think you can suggest to our audience here and to those watching online, right? What are some clear plans that you've suggested to some of your clients that you can suggest to us?
Yeah, so I think building the data literacy goes through different phases. So you first start with sort of a design phase, which means basically answering the question, what does data literacy mean for your organization? Because when you know what it means for your organization and where you want to be, then you set sort of the objective, the dot on the horizon, the vision of that's where we want to go towards. Then if you have sort of the dot on the horizon, then the next step is, okay, well, where are we right now, right? So there's a ton of different ways to do sort of an assessment to figure out what's the understanding of data, how well is data available, and what's the level of literacy that we have right now. And then what you will probably find is that there's a gap. And then the next step is, with that gap in mind, figuring out, okay, what is then the roadmap? What do we need to do on training for the different levels? The C-level executive don't need to write the SQL code to actually get the data, but they do need an understanding of what kind of data is important for us. How do we determine whether or not we're on the right track or need to improve? That's the level of literacy that they need to figure out. And then you have on the execution part where you actually build the platform. So obviously that has a completely different level of data literacy. And then you can move to the sort of implementation phase where you actually execute on that roadmap that you've designed. And after that implementation, you constantly have the scaling up, right? Because you have the level at a certain point, and then you constantly want to grow that maturity over time, and you improve constantly. So it's really building it up in separate phases, and on each phase, figure out where are we right now, what's the next step. That really helps on making this relatively big and broad topic somewhat smaller, more tangible, and more reachable over time.
Right. Michael, I have a follow-up question to that. Right. There are a lot of ERPs out there, right? A lot of software companies that are developing, softwares to understanding data, right? Now, do you have or have you experienced using specific softwares right now that made you feel that, all right, understanding the set of data that I have right now is a lot easier? Because as you know, not all companies are data literate, and sometimes you really want to start, and what you're suggesting is very good, right? But sometimes they just don't know where to start. So sometimes they tend to go to a platform wherein there's step 1, step 2, step 3 already. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So if there only was a platform where there's just a handbook of step 1, that would make life a little bit easier. So I don't think there is one particular tool or ERP or that really has that nailed down. I think what really helps is it's a bit of a mindset shift. So it's not a technology that you implement. Data literacy and data in itself, you would generally like to use it to understand how the business is performing. So where you should start, arguably from my perspective, is start with understanding the business processes. Because if you understand the business processes, then you know, hey, we're quite involved in container terminal business. And their business is moving boxes from point A to point B, right? If I really, really simplify it. So what comes then involved with moving boxes from point A to point B is, well, you have a crane, you have a vessel, you pick up a container, you move it. And the way they generate revenue is to move as many of these containers as humanly possible. So with that in mind, how do you determine then whether you're moving a lot of containers or not? Is by defining all those individual steps, figuring out what are the timestamps that you need in order to measure how well you're performing. And from that, you figure out what you need from the data side. So it's not per se starting from a technical perspective, but really starting from understanding the business objectives, understanding the business processes, and from there figure out where you really should have a big impact and start.
So it's better to understand your business processes and what are your goals, right? Before you start using other platforms, right? So thank you for that. And now Aisinur, same question.
Okay. They covered already the biggest parts, so I'm just have to agree with it. But I'm going to take this from a very short-term perspective. So tomorrow, or tonight, or 3 days later after this conference is over, what you can do when you go back to your organization and go back to your departments, or if it's your own business, I think first, look at all the reports that is done in your organization and quit some of them. Really, because that's going to save a lot of time for your team, for you,
Quit the ones that doesn't make any meaningful insight and knowledge. You will build them later up again when you have enough time and resource to read it, to analyze it. So I think first to do is not to do, not to do some of the things. Quit doing some of the reports so that you can focus on the most important one. Just have one big report, but not too big again. And you have to also select KPIs because priority is number one here. So literally, what are the KPIs that you look for on a daily basis that would guide you for an action for the next day? That's a simple question. For the next day I'm talking about. It's not about for future. So let's say every business, if it's not an NGO, every business has 3 super KPIs, right? Sales, cost, and profit. So, and yeah, I think everybody would agree with that. And all other KPIs are around those. So you can just like create a report where you, on a daily basis, see number of sales you have, your cost to do that sales, and your profit, your bottom line at the end of the day. And look at also your, traffic if it's an online platform that you're having. Look at your conversion rate. If it's again an online, even if it's not an online business, for a B2B business, for instance, you have to keep data for B2Bs first because data is not flowing numerically. It's not like an AI flow of data. So for a B2B business, you have to record. Your salespeople needs to record. Of course, there are tools for that, but you can just open up the Excel and start recording. Today I met 10 people from this conference, and they do this business, this is their business industry, so you get a lot of categorization and taxonomy. And once you decide on your KPIs, you need 3 KPI, but make it 10 most, the report being mostly 10 KPIs. Check them on a daily basis, but do not automize it. I know I'm sounding crazy in such a time, such an era, but one of the things we do with our clients, we ask them to enter data manually every day till they understand the connection in between. Because that's the part missing. So every day, look at the sources. This is my revenue, this is my cost, this is my discount rate I gave, etc., etc. And then you will start combining what causes what, in a way. Because this is data literacy. You understanding, your team's understanding why this is happening. Why did I have $1 million on one day, and why did I have $100,000 on another day? What does this really mean? So I think that's the next step. And then take it from here. Rome was not built up in a day, right? But it was just bricks. So start with the bricks, and your first brick would be, okay, let's remove the things that we don't need, that we don't look anymore. Maybe you need them, but if you're not using them, there's no reason to make that effort anyways. And then set your KPIs, read it on a daily basis. What does this mean for our business? Answer this question. And then just keep doing it every day, every single day, because one of the things missing is the consistency, because we people are all good in starting some stuff, but we do not keep advocacy and resilience most of the time to make things happen. So that's why I'm suggesting a small step. If you start with a big step, I'm sure not you, like everybody will quit down the road. But if you just start with a small report that you look on a daily basis, I'm sure you'll make it consistent. And then you say, okay, now this is so easy. I need more data. And that's how Harold said, like, successful companies tend to look at more data, because as they look at data, they become better in a way. So that would be my suggestion, like practical one.
Thank you, Aisinor. So basically, less is more, right? The less reports you're looking at least the most important ones, right? The better it is, so that you can focus on the most important aspect of your business. And of course, just like what you've said, consistency is very important. Sometimes business owners, entrepreneurs, C-levels, we tend to start a project, and then when our attention shifted to a new project, we tend to forget why we started the first one in the first place, right? And I think that's very important. Having the same level of commitment, just like what Carla mentioned, consistency in understanding data, using it, leveraging it, just like what Michael said, is very, very important in the success of your business and how you're gonna go towards that goal that you're trying to achieve moving forward, right? Well, thank you so much for that. Now, it's been very insightful so far, our discussions, but we want to involve our audience, right? We want to know what you guys understand from what we've been, discussing here. So if there's anyone, we have 10 minutes left. So if there's anyone here or multiple ones here who would like to raise questions about data, our panelists here are ready to answer your questions. So let's start the dialogue. Raise your hands if you're ready. So, okay, we have one lady at the very back there. If someone could probably just give her the microphone so she's at. Maybe you can just come towards the front. We have the microphone here right in front. I'm sorry, we're having a technical difficulty.
Hello. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here and working down the issues.
Maybe you.
Most of our clients, we have Fortune 15 companies, 500 companies, and their family companies as well, family businesses. The key question they always have, and that was out of our conversations, what really emerges from the data is, where is this data getting converged into what you want to achieve? Some people, of course, the panelists mentioned processes and all that. Today, the world is going towards customer centricity. Eventually, whatever we collect data, it is on the IT side of the fence. It's a huge monster. Every hour, it's going by the terabytes. So that's all good, cleaning up, quality, governance. But where is that data, the key element of data, getting converged, mixed with what I want to understand about the customer, their persona, what their wish list is, these small little details. How can I make them feel happy about it? The customer centricity. So as I'm not from of course, part of the whole technology gamut that we play is definitely part of the data that we play. But from the pundit side here, I would like to know if they know any software or anything that is a quick capability that they have found to really bring in this kind of a customer centricity. Because we struggle, each business is different, each human is different. So we really use this data, which is a monster out there, which is IT's shop business essentially, is being that way. So how do we really take that out into the customer world and then really make that happen so that customers can feel happy?
All right. So I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question? How can we
really figure out data convergence to help with customer centricity?
All right. So who would like to answer the question? How about Mike? So how do we convert data?
How do we use data convergence for bringing in customer centricity?
Okay. So how do we leverage data conversion in bringing in customer centricity?
Data to customers. They're looking for one tip. I think that's what we got time for. How do you make sure that data helps the customer? What do you got?
I think it starts with understanding, as I mentioned before, right? What is the customer business processes? Because fundamentally, what you want to do with your data is understand where are areas for improvement on those particular processes. So mapping out like a business process flow, will help you understand what kind of data points you need and actually to measure where the company can improve. And what you will probably find is that if you zoom out a bit, there's similarities across, industries, even though every individual business is obviously different. But if you look at particular industries, there's similarities, right? So you could leverage those similarities in order to speed up that whole process and reuse what you've built for other customers again. But I think it starts with understanding the business processes and then map out what is the model behind it, what are the data points that I need to understand and measure it, and start from there.
All right. Do you guys want to add something? All right. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. Now, we have the lady here. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you all for being here and thank you for your time. My name is Gurjeet Chima-Jan. I'm the founder of Connexo. It's a boutique HR consulting firm based in the U.S. We advise clients on talent acquisition, retention, and culture. I had more of a comment. I really appreciated Carla's comment earlier about culture and the importance of it. Because it's not just around data literacy, but often what we find with clients is there's a disconnect between why you're even collecting data, right? What problem are you trying to solve, if any? And in certain instances, in sales, I can see why having a report, like you mentioned earlier, right, can drive sales and show you your next steps of what to do. But in other areas and disciplines, such as HR, for example, you have to know what to measure. And to paraphrase a famous quote, right, not everything that matters can be measured. So sometimes you end up collecting data that actually doesn't share the whole story or shares half the story, which creates more risk. And can actually drive an unethical culture. So I think it's really, really important what you mentioned earlier, Carla, about the culture and how that can tie in with understanding of data, why are you even collecting it, and what problem you're trying to solve. So just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. I will try to answer. It's a new word because you really touched a point which has a huge comments to be done on this. I think that two pillars, and we can discuss further later on, but there are pitfalls in data, in the selection of KPIs. The data cannot tell everything. Data can show something, can be manipulated, can be not really true, cannot be the right ones to give the right idea for decision makers. But they are important and we have all to work on them, the selection and so on. But for human resources, for HR, the KPIs are difficult, but there are KPIs and I think that one thing is the selection of the right KPIs and another point is the integration of the sources and of the selections to arrive to the best major result. Because in sustainability, for example, social issues are key issues, and literacy coming from sustainability areas gives a lot of ideas about the KPIs to be used for HR. So this is a small answer to your big question. So let's see and participate to the debate about the KPIs for social issues in sustainability. I suggest to all of us to work on it because we are the life of sustainability in practice. We are all the life of sustainability. And another point, besides this human side, is the integration of the DSS systems. Because decision supporting systems, I come from tax and custom. So something which is felt to be far from the idea of the selection of the KPIs for the performance of the business. This is felt to be a sort of a mathematical game based on certainty. This is not true. If we have tax advantages, we have tax risks. So we have to consider both sides. So I work to improve decision supporting systems and IT, keeping into account business models, sustainability issues, and tax and customs compliance. If these all work together, you can work well. But it's a big effort for companies, really a big effort. We cannot say we have the key, because it's difficult to improve it. It's difficult to implement it in practice. So thank you for this good question.
Yeah, maybe you're so right, because with HR it's difficult, right? What I do in my company is, or for the companies that we work with, first I understand their values, and then define the behaviors for those values, and then I define the positions need for soft skills, the needed soft skills for that specific position. And then I build case studies for the technical parts. And then when you add them up together and contribute some percentages on all of them, that's still data literate. So there is way, but it takes a lot of effort. But I believe like you guys, HR professionals, are doing a great job. But sometimes the companies don't see it as a data. But data is not just numbers at the end of the day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, give our panelists a great round of applause. Great start of the day. Thank you so much.